There are truths we all know, but somehow we forget. It's like a veil has been placed over our minds, stopping us from tapping into the deepest knowledge about our own existence. What I'm about to share isn't sensationalism, conspiracy theories, or empty promises. It's something so simple and yet so profound that many are afraid to face. The calm truth about our journey, even before we're born. If you feel there's something bigger, if you've ever experienced that unexplainable intuition, or wondered about your real purpose in this world, this video is for you. Before we move on, if this message strikes a chord with you, hit the like button now and subscribe to the channel for more content that can transform how you see reality. What happens to our soul before birth? Where do we go after we leave this world? And more importantly, why are we here? These questions have echoed through the centuries, across all cultures, religions, and philosophies. Today I'm sharing a perspective that is rarely discussed, based on the extraordinary account of someone who was right on the edge between worlds. This story begins with a man you'd never imagine as a bearer of spiritual revelations. His name was Yevgeny Levintzov, a decorated general, a man of science and logic, who devoted his life to strategic, rational thinking. A natural skeptic through and through, he would brush off any talk of spirituality with a wave of disbelief, until that day. In 1992, after a serious accident during military training, Yevgeny fell into a deep coma. The doctors said he didn't stand much of a chance. For 17 days, his body lay inert, hooked up to machines, while his consciousness, like he later described it, traveled to dimensions beyond human understanding. When Yevgeny awoke, defying all medical expectations, he wasn't the same man anymore. The skeptical, pragmatic general returned with an unshakable certainty about what he'd witnessed. For years he hesitated to share his experiences, worrying about his reputation and sanity. Only in his final years did he decide to reveal what he claimed to have received directly from a higher mind, an understanding of the soul's cycle that goes far beyond our limited earthly views. What makes his account stand out is that he doesn't talk about tunnels of light or reunions with loved ones, common themes in near-death stories. Yevgeny talked about what happens before birth, about a careful process of preparation and commitment that every soul goes through before starting a new life on earth. He swore he received this knowledge not as just an opinion or belief, but as an absolute fact revealed during his experience. According to Yevgeny's account, before we are born, our soul gets something very precious, a mission, a code, or a direction. It isn't a fixed destiny, but essential guidance, a purpose that gives meaning to our existence. This gift isn't random either. It's carefully chosen based on experiences from previous journeys, the lessons our soul needs to learn, and the contributions we can bring to the world. Imagine a big, bright hall where souls gather to plan their next incarnation. This isn't a solo process. Spiritual mentors, whom Yevgeny described as beings of light with expanded consciousness, guide each soul through a deep reflective process. Together, they review the soul's entire journey so far, its achievements, failures, recurring patterns, hidden talents, and unhealed wounds. At that sacred moment, the soul receives its gift, a unique mix of talents, inclinations, and potentials that will serve as tools to fulfill its purpose. For some, this gift might be an extraordinary artistic talent. For others, a brilliant analytical mind. And for others still, it might be a deep empathy or an innate ability to lead and inspire. Here's the crucial point Yevgeny always stressed. The gift is never given for personal gain. It's never about personal success, fame, or fortune. The gift is always a tool for service, a way to contribute to the collective evolution of human consciousness. It's a responsibility, not a privilege. When you see a prodigy playing the piano like Mozart at 5 years old, according to Yevgeny, you aren't just witnessing a genetic fluke or neurological quirk. You're seeing a soul that prepared intensely to bring beauty and harmony into the world through music. Yevgeny said that in this pre-birth state, we are fully aware of the purpose of our gift and the mission we've agreed to carry out. We see clearly how our talents can be used to heal, transform, teach, or inspire, and most importantly, we accept that mission voluntarily, fully conscious of its challenges. Before beginning our earthly journey, every soul makes a solemn promise to use its gift in service of evolving consciousness. This promise isn't made under pressure or fear, but with a deep understanding of the role each one of us plays in the great tapestry of existence. Yet something extraordinary happens at birth. We forget. We forget our commitment, our mission, our greater purpose. We forget who we really are beyond the physical body and temporary personality. According to Yevgeny, this forgetfulness isn't a mistake or a flaw. It's an intentional and necessary part of the process. He explained that the veil of forgetting is the greatest gift and the greatest challenge we receive. Without it, we wouldn't have real free will. If we remembered our mission and all our past lives clearly, every choice we made would be influenced by that knowledge. There'd be no room for genuine discovery, for surprise, or for the authentic learning that comes by facing the unknown. Imagine watching your favorite movie for a second time. You already know the plot, the twists, even the ending. It might still be nice, but it will never hit you as hard emotionally as the first time. In the same way, without forgetting, our lives would be like watching a movie we already know. Still, that veil of forgetting isn't perfect. Yevgeny explained that small fragments of our pre-birth wisdom remain accessible through what we call intuition, an inexplicable feeling of knowing without knowing how we know. It's that inner nudge that pushes us in a certain direction, even when logic suggests another route. He said intuition is the soul's way of reminding the brain what it forgot. It's the whisper of our deepest self trying to guide us back to the path we chose. Even in the midst of forgetfulness, that internal compass keeps pointing us toward the true north of our existence. And so, we start our earthly journey equipped with specific gifts and talents, yet without a clear memory of why or how to use them. We carry within us a map to a treasure we aren't even aware we're seeking. We feel a call, but we can't quite pinpoint the voice behind it. This is the great game of life, to rediscover who we really are, to reconnect with our original purpose, to unearth those gifts we brought with us, and learn to use them not for our own glory, but for a greater good that we've always known deep down. Here's where the role of consciousness becomes crucial, not merely as a moral guide, but as the echo of that primordial pact we made before birth. Yevgeny believed that what we call consciousness, or our inner voice, isn't just a product of social conditioning or culture. It's the lingering memory of our original commitment that persists even under the veil of forgetting. When you feel that inner unease, that slight discomfort when you take a path that you know isn't really you, you're not just reacting to cultural norms. You're hearing the dissonance between the choices you're making and the promise your soul made before you were born. According to Yevgeny, guilt isn't a tool for controlling society, it's our soul's navigation system. It's how our deepest self lets us know when we're straying from our true path. Ignoring this inner compass repeatedly leads to consequences that go beyond simple emotional discomfort. Many people feel an inexplicable emptiness even when they've hit all the external markers of success, wealth, status, and recognition. That void, Yevgeny explained, comes directly from living out of sync with the soul's purpose. It happens when you neglect or suppress the gifts you brought into this life. Look at people who truly feel fulfilled, he'd say. They aren't necessarily the richest or the most famous. They are the ones who have figured out how to put their natural talents to work in service of something greater than themselves. Often, without even realizing it, they've reconnected with and embraced their original mission. This perspective completely reshapes the idea of success. It isn't about accumulation or achievement. It's about alignment and remaining true to the soul's purpose. When you're on the right path, even if it's challenging, you feel a deep sense that you're exactly where you're meant to be, doing exactly what you were born to do. That's why some people seem to be guided by an unshakable inner certainty, while others wander aimlessly, trying one path after another without ever feeling satisfied. The first group, even if they don't realize it, are in tune with their original purpose. Those who wander have lost touch with their internal compass. And it's also why we're often drawn to certain activities from childhood. That kid who doodles for hours without lessons, the one who naturally finds themselves mediating between friends, or the one who feels completely at home in nature. These aren't random quirks. They're the expressions of the gifts we chose to bring into this life. So what happens when we deny our gift or ignore that inner calling that quietly speaks to us in moments of silence? According to Yevgeny's accounts, the effects run deep and show up on several levels of our existence. He told us, the talents and abilities we have aren't genetic accidents or random outcomes of our environment. They're carefully chosen baggage from past lives, refined over time to be used in this particular incarnation. But with these gifts comes a clear responsibility. They aren't privileges, but tools for transformation. When someone is born with an extraordinary musical talent, it isn't so they can just become famous or rich. It's so that, through music, they can touch hearts, awaken dormant emotions, inspire, or even heal. And when someone is gifted with an exceptional analytical mind, it isn't only for academic success, but to solve complex problems that affect everyone, to expand the limits of human knowledge. Using our gifts the wrong way, whether out of neglect, fear, or channeling them only for personal gain, creates a deep internal disharmony. Yevgeny explained that many physical or psychological illnesses start because of this misalignment. The body is the last to get sick but the first to show signs, he noted. Before any physical illness appears, there are subtle signals. That persistent feeling of emptiness, a lack of purpose, inexplicable anxiety, or depression that conventional treatments can't fully shake. These are the soul's alarms, letting us know we've strayed from our true course and betrayed the commitment we once made. According to Yevgeny, much of humanity's deep suffering isn't divine punishment or bad luck. It's the natural consequence of living disconnected from our true purpose. It's like trying to force a fish to live out of water, he said. The fish isn't being punished, it's just out of its element. Yet there's a beautiful side to this system. It's never too late to rediscover and honor your gift. Even if you've spent decades on paths that don't resonate with your inner truth, you can always choose to realign. And when that happens, we often witness what seems like a miracle, an inexplicable recovery, sudden revitalization, or a newfound clarity and purpose. Life never stops offering us a chance to correct our course, Yevgeny insisted. Every new dawn is a chance to ask, am I using my gifts to serve the purpose I was born to fulfill? Am I honoring the promise my soul made? One of the most fascinating parts of Yevgeny's account is his view of human encounters. According to him, nothing, absolutely nothing, happens by chance when it comes to the people who cross our path. He explained, souls never come alone into an incarnation. They come in groups, organized carefully to provide the experiences needed for growth. The family, friends, mentors, lovers, and even those you clash with are not random parts of your life. They're souls with whom you made specific agreements before you were born. These agreements aren't formal contracts, but a deep mutual understanding about the lessons you need to learn together, the karmas you must resolve, and the growth you can spark in one another. Some souls agree to take on challenging roles in your life, not out of malice or revenge, but because they're committed to your mutual evolution. According to Yevgeny, that person who tests your patience the most, the one who seems to hit your most sensitive spots, is playing exactly the role they agreed to. Not to punish you, but to give you a chance to overcome the limitations your soul needs to learn from. This view completely transforms how we see human relationships. The difficult boss, the challenging partner, the child with special needs, or the friend who betrayed you can all be seen as teachers on your spiritual journey. And you too are playing a crucial role in their growth. Yevgeny said that back in the pre-birth stage, these negotiations between souls happen with full awareness and acceptance. You might agree to be the child of someone who needs to learn unconditional patience. Or you might decide to be that challenging partner who forces another soul to find their own strength. Or you might commit to being that loyal friend who's there during the darkest moments, he explained. These agreements aren't about punishment or revenge from past lives, something Yevgeny strongly rejected. They're about balance, learning, and growing together. The soul isn't looking for retribution, it's looking for understanding. It doesn't try to make others suffer. It creates conditions so that every part of the equation can rise above limiting patterns. That's why we sometimes feel an instant connection with someone, that sense of we've met before, or this hard-to-describe familiarity with a person we've just met. Yevgeny believed that these aren't just subjective impressions, but real soul-level recognitions. Similarly, some encounters happen exactly when you need them, with a synchronicity that defies logic. There's no such thing as coincidence, he insisted. There's only the meticulous unfolding of plans that were made long before we were born, coming together at the perfect time for all souls involved. If the pre-birth process was about planning and commitment, then the process after death, according to Yevgeny, is about review and integration. When we leave our physical body, we don't immediately move to another realm or enter a new life. There's a transition period, a critical interlude that serves several purposes. Yevgeny recounted, in the first days after physical death, the soul stays close to its familiar environment and to the people it loved. This isn't because of attachment or fear of moving on. It's just part of the natural transition. During this time, the soul watches how people react to its absence, takes part in its own farewell, and observes the mourning of those it left behind. This isn't a time of suffering for the soul, on the contrary. It's a moment to truly understand the impact it had on others, a chance to see the love it might not have fully recognized during its life. For some, it also becomes a time of farewell and emotional closure. After this initial phase, what Yevgeny called a life review process begins, a process very different from the traditional idea of divine judgment. There isn't an external judge listing your faults or virtues, he explained. It's your own expanded consciousness, finally freed from the limitations of physical perception, that sees clearly the consequences of every choice you made. In this state, the soul relives every significant moment of its life, not just through its own eyes, but by experiencing those moments from the perspective of everyone affected. It feels their pain, understands what they felt, suffers and rejoices as they did. Imagine reliving a heated conversation where you said hurtful things to someone you cared about. You wouldn't merely recall it, you'd feel the full weight of the pain your words caused, experiencing directly the emotional impact on the other person. This process isn't about punishment, it's deeply educational. The soul isn't being tormented for its mistakes, it's invited to understand them in full, to grasp the entire depth of every action taken. There's no external condemnation, just the unfiltered truth of what happened and what its consequences were. In the same way, every act of kindness, every moment of true love, and every selfless decision is revisited, not just remembered but experienced as the full force of the good it generated. A word of encouragement you once uttered and then forgot might have completely changed someone's life, Yevgeny said. During this review, you'll feel the full impact of that word, the hope it ignited, the strength it provided. This process goes far beyond our human ideas of reward and punishment. There is no favoritism. There are no exceptions or negotiations. There is only the unvarnished truth of who we were and how we touched the world. It's the soul finally facing itself without the filters of ego or the excuses we made while we were alive. Yevgeny concluded, heaven isn't a place of clouds and harps. It's the full, direct experience of all the good your life produced. And hell isn't a realm of fire and eternal torment. It's the moment when a soul fully confronts the suffering it caused others. After this life review process, the soul reaches a critical decision point. Having absorbed and integrated the lessons of its latest incarnation, it now faces one fundamental choice: to return to another earthly life or move on to other levels of existence. This choice isn't imposed by any outside force, Yevgeny explained. It's a profoundly personal process of self-evaluation. The soul honestly assesses its growth, its achievements, and any mistakes left unresolved, and then considers whether there's more to experience on the physical plane. For many souls, the decision to return is almost immediate. They see the unresolved lessons, unfinished business, and unfulfilled promises. They feel a deep inner pull to complete what was left behind, to correct the imbalances they created, or to understand more completely the facets of physical life. Other souls might feel that they've learned all that the earthly plane has to offer, that they've integrated its essential lessons. For them, there's the option to move on to other realms of experience and service, which Yevgeny only described in vague terms, acknowledging that such realities are difficult to express in human language. What I can say, he explained, is that our journey doesn't end with this earth. There are countless levels of existence, each offering unique opportunities for growth and service. Earth is simply one school among many in our vast, multidimensional universe. There's also a third possibility that Yevgeny spoke of with special concern. Some souls, after the life review, become so disturbed or confused by what they've experienced that they can't decide whether to move on or return. These souls enter what he described as orbit, a circular cycle in which they keep reliving aspects of their past life, trapped in loops of regret, denial, or attachment. These are the souls we'd refer to as ghosts or stuck spirits, Yevgeny explained. They aren't condemned to remain in this state forever, it's only temporary. Eventually, with the help of spiritual guides or through their own inner awakening, they break free and move on. But they can remain in this state for what feels like a very long time from our earthly perspective. Yevgeny said that the most common cause of this orbit state isn't deep remorse for past misdeeds as many might assume, it's attachment. The inability to accept the transition, to let go of relationships, possessions, or identities. A soul that was deeply identified with its role as a parent might resist moving on out of worry for its children. Someone who based their identity on wealth or power might cling to the status they experienced. And a soul with unfinished business might become fixated on trying to complete it. This perspective gives us a whole new way of understanding why detachment during life is so important. It's not about an arbitrary ascetic lifestyle. It's essential preparation for the transition that every one of us inevitably faces. The more we attach ourselves to our temporary roles, possessions, or status, the harder it'll be when it's time to move on. Yevgeny summed it up by saying, "The true challenge of human life isn't to accumulate, achieve, or hold on. It's to grow, learn, and ultimately let go gracefully. It's using this precious time to evolve in ways that ease our ongoing journey, no matter what comes next after this earthly chapter." For those souls choosing to return to the physical world for another incarnation, there is an extraordinary period of preparation that Yevgeny described as the soul's workshop. This isn't just a waiting period, it's an active, conscious time of healing, planning, and getting ready. Picture a vast, luminous space, Yevgeny described. It's a place where souls at different stages of development work side by side, guided by beings whose only task is to help nurture the growth and evolution of consciousness. In this space, several crucial processes happen simultaneously. First, there's a phase of healing and integration. Emotional wounds from past lives' traumas, hurts, deep pains, are dealt with not as problems to be erased, but as experiences to be understood in a broader context. It's like each wound is a piece of a puzzle, Yevgeny explained. On its own, it might seem simply painful and pointless, but when you look at it as part of a bigger picture, it reveals its true purpose. During this healing process, the soul is assisted by spiritual mentors, souls who have finished their cycles on Earth and now serve as guides. They don't force solutions, but help the soul find its own answers, draw wisdom from its experiences, and recognize the patterns that need transforming. Then comes planning for the next incarnation, a collaborative effort involving not only the individual soul and its mentors, but also all the souls that will be part of its new earthly journey. It's a cosmic choreography of extraordinary complexity, Yevgeny said. Imagine coordinating the lives of dozens, even hundreds of souls, each with its own lessons to learn, its own gifts to offer, and its own karmas to balance. In planning, countless factors are taken into account. What kind of cultural environment will provide the right lessons? What physical characteristics will best serve the incarnation's purpose? What challenges will promote the necessary growth? Which talents and skills will be most useful for the soul's mission? When you see a child born with a physical disability, Yevgeny explained, you're often witnessing not a random accident or a tragedy, but a deliberate choice by a brave soul who wanted to experience life from that perspective. Whether to develop qualities like patience and perseverance, to inspire others through their example, or for countless other reasons that our limited understanding might miss. Likewise, exceptional talents, those natural gifts, are not random rewards. They're carefully selected tools for the soul's specific purpose in that lifetime. A child prodigy playing the piano magnificently at 4 years old isn't showing off a random talent, Yevgeny said. They're tapping into a capacity refined in the soul's workshop, from previous lives to serve a specific role in this existence. This whole process helps explain phenomena that defy our normal understanding, like children showing knowledge or skills they couldn't possibly have learned in their short lives, or kids speaking languages they never formally studied, or recalling details of places and times they've never experienced before. These aren't coincidences or anomalies, Yevgeny stated. They're moments when the veil of forgetting becomes a little thinner, allowing fragments of knowledge and experience from other lives to emerge in our current awareness. The time a soul spends in this workshop can vary widely depending on its needs. Some remain in this state for what could seem like decades or even centuries from our perspective, as they absorb lessons, refine their understanding, and wait for the perfect conditions for their next incarnation. Others transition quickly, almost immediately returning to the physical world to continue their growth. There's no hierarchy in these different paths, Yevgeny emphasized. A soul that spends a long time between incarnations isn't better or worse than one that returns quickly. They're simply different strategies for different evolutionary needs. The real secret, Yevgeny reveals, isn't so much about what happens after death, a topic that has fascinated humanity for millennia, but about what happens before birth. Understanding this has the power to fundamentally change how we see life, purpose, and who we truly are. When you grasp that you come into this world with a specific purpose, that your most essential traits are not random genetic accidents or mere products of your environment, but conscious choices made by your soul, everything changes. Your talents become responsibilities. Challenges become opportunities that you intentionally chose. The tough relationships in your life become key lessons for your growth. If you're watching this video, it's not by accident. Perhaps your soul recognizes a truth that, deep down, you always knew. Maybe something in this message resonates with that inner wisdom that has remained intact behind the veil of forgetting. Life seen through this lens isn't a hunt for temporary happiness, material success, or external approval. It's a journey of self-discovery, a sacred chance to remember who you really are and why you chose to be here. It's a training ground for the soul, where every experience, from the most painful to the most ecstatic, serves the greater purpose of your evolution. If what I've shared today struck a chord with you, please leave a comment below. Share your own intuitions, experiences, or questions. This space isn't just for passive consumption of information. It's for building a community of souls who recognize one another on this extraordinary journey of existence. Yevgeny once said, "The greatest tragedy in life isn't the suffering, failure, or even death. It's reaching the end of our earthly journey without having discovered and honored the purpose for which we came. It's living a life distracted by superficial concerns, while the true treasure of our existence remains buried inside us, waiting to be uncovered." So now I ask you, what signs has your soul been sending that you might have ignored? What natural talents or inclinations might be pointing you toward your greater purpose? What seemingly accidental encounters have shaped your life in deep ways? Maybe it's time to quiet the external noise and listen more closely to that inner voice that never fully forgot who you are or why you're here. Maybe it's time to honor the gifts you carried into this life, not as a means for personal pride, but as instruments for service and transformation. I truly believe that we're living in a time of a great collective awakening, a time when more and more souls are remembering their original purpose and finding the courage to live it fully. The very fact that you were drawn to this message suggests that your soul is already answering the call. In our upcoming videos, we'll explore more specific aspects of this soul journey, how to recognize signs of past lives, how to pinpoint your unique purpose in this life, and how to heal the blocks that prevent the full expression of your gifts. If these ideas resonate with you, be sure to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you don't miss a thing. Remember, you aren't just a body with a soul, you are a soul with a body. And that shift in perspective changes everything. Until our next encounter, keep listening to the whispers of your inner wisdom. They're guiding you back home, back to the truth of who you really are. What I've shared today, based on the extraordinary accounts of Yevgeny Levin, isn't new knowledge. In fact, it's ancient wisdom, a truth that echoes through the spiritual traditions of many cultures, expressed in different languages and symbols, yet always pointing to the same fundamental idea: we are eternal beings on a temporary journey. This understanding does not separate us from our humanity. Instead, it allows us to embrace it fully, with all its challenges and beauties. When you recognize that you chose to be here, that this life isn't a punishment or an accident, but a deliberate opportunity, every moment changes. Suffering doesn't vanish. It remains a part of the human experience, but we see it differently. It's not the enemy to be avoided at all costs, but a strict teacher offering lessons precisely calibrated for our growth. It's not proof that the universe is cruel or indifferent. It's evidence of a system perfectly designed to catalyze our evolution. In the same way, joy, love, and beauty, the experiences that lift us up and expand our consciousness, aren't just happy accidents or unearned privileges. They're reminders of our true nature, glimpses of the greater reality that we momentarily forget when we assume this human form. There's a purpose behind every encounter, Yevgeny would say, a meaning in every challenge, an opportunity in every loss. Nothing goes to waste in the grand laboratory of existence. Every experience, every emotion, every thought contributes to the continuous evolution of our consciousness. And so the cycle continues: birth, life, death, review, planning, rebirth. An endless spiral of experience and growth. Not a simple circle of meaningless repetition, but a continuous expansion of consciousness and understanding. Every turn of that spiral brings us higher, broadens our perspective, and deepens our capacity to love and serve. Some might wonder, if this process is so perfectly designed, why is there so much suffering in the world? Why do some souls seem to face such intense challenges, while others have comparatively easier lives? According to Yevgeny, the answer lies in the nature of free will, the supreme gift given to every soul. The perfect plan established before birth must meet the imperfect reality of human choices. Souls that chose roles of support and love might, once incarnated and subject to the veil of forgetting, choose paths of neglect or even abuse. Systems designed to nurture and protect can be corrupted by fear and greed. Yevgeny explained, unnecessary suffering, the kind of pain that doesn't serve any evolutionary purpose, is almost always the result of human choices that are out of alignment with the soul's plan. That's why our collective awakening to this deeper truth is so important. The more souls remember their original purpose and live in alignment with it, the less unnecessary suffering there will be. Perhaps the most comforting part of all this is knowing we're never truly alone. Even in our loneliest moments, we're surrounded by an invisible network of support souls committed to journeying with us, mentors guiding us from subtler realms, and aspects of our own higher consciousness that continue to connect us with our true essence. Yevgeny said, when you feel the loneliest, it's often when you're most deeply accompanied, even if your physical senses can't detect it. What you see as abandonment might actually be a profound moment of spiritual intervention, a space created so you can discover inner resources you never knew you had. As we wrap up this exploration of the soul's journey, I invite you to consider a life-changing possibility. What if you already knew all of this? What if, on some deep level, these truths aren't new to you at all, but are reminders of wisdom that has always been inside you? Maybe the resonance you feel with these ideas is not just a coincidence or suggestion, but recognition, your soul recalling what it has always known beyond the veil of forgetting. Perhaps those moments of intuition or inexplicable knowing you've experienced throughout your life were glimpses of this deeper truth trying to emerge. If this message touched you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so we can continue this journey of rediscovery together. And most importantly, carry these reflections into your everyday life. Watch your relationships, challenges, and talents with fresh eyes, always seeking the greater purpose behind what might seem random. As Yevgeny told us in his final moments, the greatest adventure isn't about traveling the outer world, it's about rediscovering the inner world, that vast universe of wisdom, purpose, and connection that lives inside each of us, patiently waiting to be remembered. Subscribe and hit like for more stories like this. Until next time, Remember, you're not here by accident. You chose this life, this moment, these challenges, and deep inside you always knew why. The question is, are you ready to remember?